Hi, everybody. My name is Rhommel, and today I want to talk about something that has been eating away the core of SRE and DevOps. Originally, this talk was called Terraform, GitOps, and the Slow Death of SRE, but let's be real, that title is a little bit too spicy for a DevOpsDays kind of talk. So I think that it resonated with most of us. But yeah, the tools pile up. We have piled up on tools. We have systems harder to understand. We have less time engineering, more time doing YAML. And I didn't just want to point out all the problems that we have in this career. I wanted to offer a simple way out as well. So as I developed the talk, something really shifted in me, and I decided to change the title a little bit. So this is why this call is now talk, SRE is not YAML. The more I worked through the content of the slides, the more I realized this is not about Terraform or GitOps. This is about identity. Although I have really strong opinions about Terraform and GitOps. What is SRE really for? What should we protect from SRE? And what should we let go of? Those are the key things that I learned. I changed the title as well, because this is no longer a tear down on SRE. This is trying to be a blueprint of what to do next. So today we're going to talk about the shift that has been happening over the years, and how we're going to rebuild trust, relevance, and real engineering in a world that is moving fast and becoming increasingly automated. A quick intro. I started my career around 2007 as a systems engineer. Over time, I moved through different roles, backend engineering, backend development, infrastructure, DevOps, and eventually landed in what's now called SRE, where I've spent around the last decade. I built teams, I shipped platforms, I probably written more YAML than I care to admit. And I want to pause right now and say something that I consider really important. I didn't come here to talk about where I worked. I don't think that dropping a name of a big company here is going to make my ideas more relevant. And if it does, I think that I failed, and we're missing the point. If someone only listens to my ideas just because I'm dropping those big names in there, I think that we're missing the point. Ideas should stand on their own, and what I'm going to share today is about status. It's not about status. It is about clarity, relevance, and survival, and the changing world of SRE. By quick show of hands, I want to ask, how many of you are working right now as DevOps and SRE, or SRE? Keep them up. Keep them up if you are also maintaining Terraform pipelines, GitOps pipelines, Jenkins pipelines. Good. Nice. That's a lot of us. That's great. And that's exactly the point. And that's exactly the point of this talk. Because let's face it, that's what SRE has become for many of us over the last few years. And that's what it has become in many of the places that we work for. We're actually engineers managing glue all over the organization. But ask yourself, is that really engineering? Do we think that that is what real engineering looks like? Or is that just config management with a badge? Let's take a step back for a moment. When Ben Traynor actually coined the term SRE, he defined it as what happens. SRE is what happens when you ask a software engineer to design an operations function. In other words, treat operations like a software problem. Use engineering principles to solve reliability issues, to solve availability issues, to solve performance issues. But what most of us are doing today is we're writing YAML, we're maintaining DSLs, we're building CI/CD wrappers, we're automating gates. That's not engineering, that is simply orchestration. That's actually glue. We have drifted, and in that drift, we have made some trade-offs. We optimize for platform control instead of developer usability. We have prioritized policy over outcomes. And we have shipped elegant designs that almost no one wanted to use. Devs didn't complain when we put out those platforms out there. They just routed around us and built their own abstractions and their own systems. That's not adoption, that's just disengagement. And here's the worst part. When developers stop trusting what we've built, and when leaders cannot see our impact, SRE becomes a career that is easy to cut. That's there is the problem. Unless we start owning that drift, someone else is going to redefine what SRE is as a role for us. This isn't a future scenario. It is happening right now. AI is already doing the work that we thought made us valuable as SREs and DevOps engineers. SRE is debugging complex systems at a speed that we cannot match. We ingest logs, we ingest metrics, we ingest traces, we ingest configuration, and AI just builds dynamic context across all the environments, and it does it at a fraction of a second. Meanwhile, we are stuck with Grafana dashboards, we are buried in silos, and we're waiting on Slack for a thread for an approval process. And the truth is, AI doesn't burn out. It doesn't context switch. It doesn't miss an alert. And it doesn't miss a page at 2 a.m. in the morning when all the incidents happen. If our job is pipelines, YAML, and orchestration, that is exactly the kind of work that AI is going to replace first. And I know that because many of the founders of the most successful AI companies that are getting spun up right now are people that used to be SREs. And what they want to do is automate the work that SRE is doing, the work that they consider boring of SRE. The worst part of this is that leaders are noticing this. They are asking, what does this team really do again? And do we still need that team to build pipelines? And it gets worse when we go to promotion season, because most of the panels of executives and leaders that are responsible for promotions, they don't know what we do. People from product, design, data, leadership, they maybe seen us fix one incident once when AWS goes down and takes down half of the internet, or when Cloudflare goes down and takes half of the internet down. But only that one part, that one time is when they see the value of SRE. For the rest of the time, they don't see our day-to-day. They don't understand the glue and the toil that we're trying to automate and we're trying to take out of their teams. And the quiet prevention work that each of our teams are putting together to ensure that all those incidents don't happen again, that all the platform keeps running as it should. It is incredibly uncomfortable to explain as well for your leaders when your work is invisible. It becomes very easy for all these partners and all these peers to undervalue the value that we're giving to the organization. So this is just about career fragility. Our work isn't just being replaced, it's being misunderstood by our peers. And that's why this matters now. I want to tell a story that I've seen firsthand. Two engineers, they work on the same platform team, they work on the same tools, and they work on the same mission. Alex joins first. He's a very senior engineer, a staff principal engineer, builds a solid platform full of Terraform coverage. Everything is Terraform. Everything is YAML-driven pipelines. Everything has their own CI/CD pipelines on GitHub Actions, et cetera, et cetera. Technically, that platform is a masterpiece. But the problem is that the adoption is low. Nobody wants to use that platform. Developers complain all the time that it is hard to use. They cannot get their work done because this platform is not what they need. Alex's response, it is in the documentation. They just need to read it. Who haven't said that? Read the fucking manual. Then Jess joins in, and he doesn't reveal anything. He shadows the teams, watches where they are getting stuck, listens more than he talks, and he starts making small, meaningful changes. Simpler defaults, clearer documentation, smarter error messages, less YAML. Suddenly, developers aren't resisting the platform anymore. They start to adopt the platform, and voluntarily. And when promotion season comes around, guess who was promoted? Alex had the technical depth. He built the platform from scratch. But Jess has the results. Jess has the impact. Alex was defending the system. Jess made it work. So here is the uncomfortable truth. The behavior that gets you rewarded isn't always the most technical. Is the most impactful. Alex may have been right, but Jess was useful for the whole organization. And in complex organizations, it's very, very easy to be right. There is so much stuff going on that you can be right all the time. What is really, really hard is to be useful. So that's what gets you promoted. That's also what keeps you employed as an engineer. Because building glue, maintaining pipelines, and pointing people to documentation isn't what earns visibility, or even job security. That's exactly the kind of work that AI is going to replace first. We have to shift from invisible support to visible, measurable value. And from elegant systems to useful systems. What I'm sharing here is based on what I have observed across organizations. Small startups, large enterprises, and everything in between. The same pattern appears over and over again. The infrastructure workflows get centralized. Terraform is pulled into a shared pipeline. Atlantis, GitOps, GitHub Actions, TeamCity becomes gatekeepers. There is some sort of control plane. These systems are just built to deliver safely, consistently, and deliver governance. But they introduce delays, and delays is what matters. Plans that used to take seconds as the organization grows now takes minutes, now takes hours. Applies block behind locks, approvals stall, developers wait on systems they cannot control, they don't understand, they wait on other engineers to approve their PRs so they can actually get their work across the finish line. GitOps shift from a source of truth into a source of friction. And what do SREs do in response? We build more glue. We build internal tools. We build grappers over grappers. We build scripts or bash scripts on bash scripts. CI logic to bypass bottlenecks. Not because any of this adds value to the organization, but because without it, it would hold things grind to a halt. Meanwhile, we build tools based on what we think others need. We build tools to build our CV, Kubernetes. Now, not that they are actually struggling with it, but because we want it there. Developers stop complaining, they stop trying even, and they start routing around all the platform quietly. During incidents, engineers face layers and layers of automation that they never asked for. Built to solve problems no one ever validated. And here is the cost. Engineers stop understanding the infrastructure. Onboarding becomes about rituals, not principles. People know the workflow, but not the system. And when intuition fades, troubleshooting collapses, just as AI started to get good at it. I've already seen AI outperform junior engineers at identifying root causes in logs or metrics. The symptoms are clear: centralization, friction, invisible glue, declining systems intuition, AI pressure. These aren't isolated cases. They are signals that the discipline has drifted. and the cost is becoming visible. Now let's talk about the root causes. If the previous slide showed you the symptoms, this slide is about the root causes, the underlying forces that got us here. And I want to be clear, these aren't isolated mistakes or bad decisions in themselves. These are systemic outcomes of how our discipline has evolved over the years. By show of hands again, how many of you have built a platform that you thought was great, but no one used? Yeah. Except it was when it was a top-down mandate, right? Cool. Because in that case, people use it, but they hated it. And that's our first root cause right there. It's called abstraction myopia. That's ownership drift. We confuse enforcement by top-level leadership team with adoption. And we lose trust in our teams as part of that process. We started treating configuration like a system itself. Declarative intent replaced system behavior with troubleshoot pipelines instead of platforms. The second one is skill substitution. YAML replaced code. Effectively, we're all YAML engineers right now. Rituals replaced debugging. Engineers stopped tracing real systems and just wired up glue. It still looked technical though, but the depth and the intuition started fading. The third one is ownership drift. Internal platforms became ends in themselves. We optimize for policy, for governance, for alignment. We never optimize for outcomes in our organizations. And once you stop seeing others struggle with that, or with what you build, you lose accountability. Fourth is observability lag. Systems evolve faster than our telemetry. We ship new workflows without signals to understand them. So when things broke at 2 a.m. in the morning, because that's when everything breaks, and the way it's always been, we started guessing. We started troubleshooting things, and people started guessing, oh, what broke now? The fifth is my favorite. It's called process theater. Pipelines, reviews, GitOps rituals, all introduced for safety. But then the ritual became the work. Like, people are just, quote unquote, enforcing pipelines, but people don't really understand what is happening. We confuse predictability with value. Sixth is the cultural gap. Unlike research and development teams, SRE and DevOps doesn't have the luxury of loud feedback. R&D teams, they often have product managers that talk directly to the customers on a day in and day out. SREs don't go out to the internal teams to ask for feedback. So instead of working backwards from the real pain of our users, we worked forward from all of our assumptions. We built tools we wanted because of our CVs, not the tools that our users needed. And now AI is accelerating the pressure. Correlation used to be our edge. But AI now ingests logs, metrics, traces, and correlates faster than we can, with broader visibility, zero fatigue, and that was our last human advantage. And it's fading. All of this isn't to blame any one team or any one decision. This is the natural outcome of years of optimizing for consistency and control while slowly losing the depth, intuition, and customer empathy that once defined SRE and DevOps. If the drift happens slowly, the recovery must be intentional. This isn't about nostalgia or going back into the old mode of SRE. It is about building forward toward a version of SRE that is grounded in engineering, customer reality, and systems both humans and AI can reason about. It is about building forward towards a version that is grounded in engineering, customer reality, and systems. The first move is shifting glue into code. Right now, too much of the logic lives in YAML and pipelines. That is not engineering. That is orchestration. When we move this logic into real services and libraries, things get better. Testability increases, ownership becomes clearer, future engineers inherit real systems, not fragile templates that break every now and then. Next, we treat internal teams like customers. Discovery, interviews, shadowing, pairing. These are what made Engineer Yes successful. He didn't assume what people needed. He listened, he observed, he solved the real friction. Then, restore design clarity. Today, most of the changes are just Git diffs. But no one knows really why things are changing. No one can trace why this change was made. And that doesn't mean that the person that triggered this change wanted to be a bad person, or that person wanted to break the system. But we cannot track it. We cannot track that decision. We need to make it harder to ship things that are fragile and easier to ship things that are reliable. Fifth, simplifying everything. Pipeline sprawl, Terraform sprawl, GitOps wrappers on wrappers. SRE needs to lead the way to pruning. Simplifying systems is one of our most valuable things we can do as SREs and DevOps. 6, we have to reclaim time. We've spent too long maintaining scaffolding. We need time to think again, to learn systems, to improve observability, to trace failures. This is how you build real intuition. 7th, we have to show our value. Not vanity metrics of number of commits, number of pull requests. We need to talk about faster delivery, shorter time to market, simpler onboarding, fewer 2 a.m. incidents. If your execs cannot see this, they won't be investing in your teams. And finally, this might sound controversial, but embrace AI as an amplifier of SRE and DevOps. AI will automate the detection, correlation, and in some cases, remediation. There is no doubt about it, whether you want it or not. That's not a threat unless your value is shallow. The future belongs to engineers who design systems that are so clean that even AI can debug them. And to those who spend their time where AI cannot yet. Listening to your users, designing with your users, simplifying systems, building trust. Recovery isn't about returning to the past. It's about becoming what SRE was always supposed to be. An engineering discipline that improves the quality, speed, and reliability of everything around it. We come a long way in this talk, from how we drifted to how we recover. But I want to leave you with this. SRE is not dead. It is still one of the most valuable disciplines in engineering, if we return to what made it powerful in the first place. Engineering depth, real customer insights, system thinking. Our job is not to defend complexity, it's to remove it. Our job isn't to be the hero on call that shows up at 2 a.m. in the morning. Our job is to make heroics unnecessary. And AI is not coming for us, it's coming for the shallow version of us. If we choose depth, clarity, and empathy, SRE becomes the multiplier of the next generation of engineering. And that's the discipline we can be and the one worth fighting for. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Rhommel? Yes, Chris. Of course you do.
You're an organizer, you're not allowed.
Bring her in the audience.
I won't ask about managing Jess. So I've seen both sides of the sort of platform thing, where you have too much of the platform in the software and not enough of the software in the platform. And when it shifts the opposite direction from what you're talking about, how external factors like compliance changes, regulatory updates can be problems that should take a week but take a year instead. Where do you see the appropriate balance sitting, and what sort of safeguards around that?
I think most people don't understand compliance, starting there. I've been, throughout all these years, I have conversations about compliance, and everybody's very worried about losing your SOC 2 compliance, losing your ISO 27001 compliance. I don't think people understand what that means. You don't lose those things that easy. I think there needs to be a trade-off, but as SREs, we owe it to our users. We need to build platforms that are usable. And to build platforms that are usable, we need to bring our peers in the journey. We need to work with them and work backwards from their needs. At the end of the day, compliance is another user, if you think about it, right? The security team is one of the users or the customers of SRE. So we need to work with them as well. What we need to ensure is that we are not trading off developer experience for compliance. Over here.
Just a question. So those ideas you presented, philosophical, could you provide real example that you're trying to change your organization workflow or advice to make it happen? Real example or comparison, things like that.
Yeah, sure. I was working on a company, and we were building Kubernetes for the best part of 3 years. We were building Kubernetes before EKS was a thing. All of our engineering teams, all of our engineering leaders were against that platform for over 3 years. On one hand, you get all the frustration from that team that is building this platform because they don't know, they don't have certainty of what they are going to be working on, right? That was already one challenge. And the second challenge is we didn't get to sit down with all the engineering teams and get their feedback to get them to bring them on board with us. So for many years, we were struggling with that. Fortunately, there was a top-down mandate. So everybody started migrating to Kubernetes. That's great. And they ended up migrating all the platform to Kubernetes and move away from data centers to AWS, et cetera, et cetera. You know the story. Another example is there are several tools that are going on right now in terms of AI. There is Baka.ai. There are tons of AI SRE tools going out right there. When you hook up all of those platforms to any observability vendor, you can easily troubleshoot any issue that is happening on your systems just with 3 prompts. That's it. Instead of paging somebody at 3 a.m. in the morning, you can have any engineer writing a prompt to see what's happening on their service. So if we don't change our mindset and bring on board these tools, people are going to work around us. And with the whole push of executives these days in terms of onboarding AI, this shift is going to happen really fast.
I think I've got an apology. As a developer, I am so sorry. Quite often we hand you a system, we're like, we built it, can you ship it?
Yeah.
And quite often it's like late in the piece. I just worked with a platform engineer, and he was like, the last people who get thought about are the people who have to create the infrastructure. And so, you know, it's like, I was like, almost like, preach the whole time through. So yeah, but it's a two-way street, right? If we as developers want to get a better and smoother experience, we need to, as well as developers, be telling the business, basically, we can't ship these new features in AI if it takes, 6 hours to deploy or something like
Exactly.
that?
I think that's the biggest challenge right there. The communication is broken between development teams and SRE and DevOps teams. We build stuff, we don't get that feedback loop from our users. Something that we started recently doing is, it's like the second time it's done, but we started running a survey every quarter, and we managed to get about 60% of our engineering teams to actually send us feedback, and that was enlightening for our teams, because things that we thought were not a problem were the ones that were the top 1 and top 2 problematic for the day-to-day.
100%, because I think there's like it's the boiling frog scenario. You're just like, well, that's the way it's always been.
Exactly.
As a developer, you're just like, well, that's the way that we deploy. It's
Correct.
And so yeah.
And the big thing is, I've seen this happening again in across many teams. There is a lot of defensiveness on, I built this really cool platform. Don't tell me that is wrong. I spent 6 years building this. It's perfect.
Yeah.
You don't want to read the manual. So that happens a lot as well.
Yeah, well, that's one of the places where AI can really help, because I inherited like 90 pipelines recently that were completely undocumented.
Yep.
And I just ran them through Copilot and said, okay, please generate a mermaid diagram of what this does.
Yeah. And all of that happens in 2 seconds.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, the documentation.
Yep.
I really like your SRE number 2. Can we have them?
Yeah.
What was his name?
Yeah. Oh no! Oh, Jess.
I will
We
say
can
again,
never know, Jess.
it was a blind selection process. I know it sounds like a joke, but it honestly was. Any more questions?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you
Rhommel.
so much.
All right.